So first off, everybody, thank you for your time and thank you for watching my presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping things. I just updated my computer, so I don't have a background. I couldn't get it to work. So welcome to my office. I hope you enjoy the view. Second thing, I know with 100 people or so on here, I'm going to get the one wise guy question from the Q&A about the microphone. No, I do not have a podcast. I just wasted a lot of money during quarantine on things like microphones and flashing lights in the background. So that's there for you. My wife hates it. Turn that off. But who am I specifically? I'm a solutions engineer with Team Cymru, right? So really my role is supporting community services in training, configuration, demos, really whatever you guys need to get up and running with any of our services. I got my contact info there. And again, with like 100 people out there, if nobody connects to me on LinkedIn, I'm going to be offended. So please, somebody send me a LinkedIn connection. And my calendar's there just because, as we get rolling, if you sign up for any services, you can schedule time on my calendar for any assistance. The company I work for, Team Cymru, has been around since 2005, and they have a great mission of just saving and improving human lives, right? And they do that by empowering the public and private sectors just to eliminate badness on the internet, whether that be human trafficking, botnets, malware families, right? Their reach is very vast, and they accomplish this mission through free services, which is some of the stuff we'll talk about today, and also their commercial offerings, which power some of the largest organizations around the globe and plenty of public and private enterprises as well. Community services as a division has a bunch of free tools. I'm only going to be presenting for about 10 minutes, so I'm just going to talk about Nimbus briefly, but there's a lot of other stuff that we offer, like a free DDoS mitigation solution called Utters, or the malware hash registry. Just go to the website and check them out. There's great descriptions about all of them. We also host a bunch of events. We sponsor events like this one here. We have a CSERT assistance program as well that helps extend our reach. So you can find out more about all of that stuff on the website. But what is Nimbus, right? What are we here to talk about? So Nimbus is a free to use Netflow collector hosted in the cloud. It's built on Elastic and Kibana, and we make it free for ISPs, hosting providers, CSERTs, and any of you guys on this presentation here, you'll be approved if you sign up. So even if it's, you have a lab router and you just want to test it out, I can't stress enough, this is a community project, right? So the more feedback we get, the more people using it, the better it gets overall, right? And really, the primary advantage to using Nimbus is it correlates your flow data with our reputation feeds. And I have some demonstrations about what that looks like. Just a little bit of a primer. Not everybody on here is probably going to know what Netflow data is or how it works. So we'll go through that quickly. Using an example of a router, right? As a packet comes inbound to a router and it makes the decision to route that packet, it'll create an entry in what's known as the flow cache. And then as like packets start coming inbound to that router, it'll track that conversation, right? So we can see the bytes are incrementing, but the key fields, which are your dest IP, source IP, dest port, source interface, and protocol, in this example, don't change. So it just tracks that and knows that it's a single conversation because the key fields haven't changed. But when the key fields do change, when a new packet comes in, right, the router will then export that flow to a collector. It will also export the flow at regular intervals. So if you have a long-lived connection, like a VPN connection or something like that, typically every 30 to 60 seconds, you'd empty the flow cache on a router. That's configurable. I usually get asked about two questions here. One is, how is it going to impact performance on the router? Your mileage may vary on that. I've been using the protocol for a decade. I've seen very few problems caused by enabling the protocol. In the past few years, I haven't seen any, just because routers are getting so efficient. But just be aware that it's going to impact CPU a little bit. If you want to YOLO it and just go all out and turn Netflow data on everywhere in production at noon on a Friday, you'll probably be fine. But you might want to test it first, would be my advice. The second question I get asked often is like, where should I turn Netflow data on, right? And to understand that there's a global portion of the configuration where you are enabling where you want to send Netflow data to, where you want to source Netflow data from, but then you apply a monitor to the interfaces you want to observe traffic for, right? So in our example here, where we have Bob communicating to peer 1 and we have a Netflow monitor, we see that flows are being sent to the collector, right? But if Mary is communicating to peer 2 and we don't apply a flow monitor there, no flows ever get generated, right? Because we're just not telling the router to monitor at that level. In networks that have more devices, right, this becomes important because you could have Mary still communicating to peer 2 here, where we have our flow monitors applied. But if you have some other router out there, right, where we have peers 3 and 4 that are communicating back and forth, and we haven't applied any flow monitors, that's how the protocol works, right? It kind of makes sense when you look at it this way visually, but I get asked a question very frequently. So I just wanted to highlight it quickly. But once you apply those monitors, right, you'll see the Netflow data starts going to the collector. Now for Team Cymru and Nimbus, we don't care about the number of exporters you send to us or the number of interfaces you're sending from. It's free to use, send as much data as you want. But for commercial products, typically you're licensed on like number of exporters, number of interfaces, the volume of flow data, right? So just understanding how traffic moves through your network will help you make an informed decision regarding licensing or just your Netflow deployment, right? So I just want to highlight that quickly. And also, I know there's a lot of ISPs on this call. You can do IPv6 monitoring. You just have to turn it on. And we do reputation checking for IPv6 addresses as well as IPv4 addresses, right? So what does Nimbus do with the data? So we have this Netflow packet, some water, one second. What Nimbus is going to do to each flow record is going to enrich that data for you, right? So what we're going to add in is ASN information, which is great for visualizing data and filtering data. We're also going to add in data from our commercial reputation feeds, right? So what IP addresses in your flow data do we see on our feeds? And we present a confidence score to show you how certain we are that that is a bad IP address, right? Or it's not bad, but part of this botnet or proxy or whatever. We also, hello?
Hi, it's Portia here. You have just 1 minute to Q&A.
Alrighty, so I timed myself. I got it to 10 and a half. All right. So anyway, reasons we would want ASN, right? So for peering statistics, I have the ASN information. I can filter and see if I source from Team Cymru and I go to this particular peer, how much data am I sending over time, right? So I can see the volume of traffic and I can make better informed peering decisions. Also, just for global NOC style views, it's nice to see traffic broken out by ASN. Going quickly here, I know. The other thing with the alert ASN that's really nice is it allows you for better filtering. So I filter on Brian Coe. As a single filter, I see all the IP addresses that are malicious associated to that ASN. Or if I have peers that I want to filter on and send them some kind of report or provide it as a service, I can filter on their ASNs and see the IP addresses or botnets. You get access to all of the botnet families. Just 10 seconds here, I promise. Right, so you can see all the different botnet families, the number of flows, the sum of bytes, how this stuff is impacting your network, right? How much data is going across your network. And then we'll just finish with, this is more of an all-encompassing dashboard that's provided where you can kind of see everything's clickable. Filter on a botnet, see the IP addresses that are part of it. Filter on an ASN, see what signatures we see for that ASN, right? Change timeframes. Super customizable, happy to provide training for it. I am probably over my time, so I'm just going to say again, thank you all. Please check out NimbusTM, and I'm happy to answer questions here now.
Thank you very much, Brian. This is Leo. Before we go into questions, there's going to be a poll that will briefly pop up, and that is everyone's opportunity to provide feedback on the talk to the program committee. So that should be popping up on your screen in a moment. You can ask questions using the Q&A tab in Zoom. And if you want, you can asked you a question verbally, just put your hand up so that you come to the top of the list, and I will unmute you if you want to ask Brian a question. Looks like we don't have any questions at the moment. Brian, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we...
We got 3 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I'll go through Utters really quick. So what Utters is it's a community-driven DDoS mitigation solution. We have a new update coming out for this here shortly. But the way it works is people peer with Team Cymru, right? And then you can make announcements to us, and we'll pass those announcements on to everybody else that's participating within this. So I'm going to go here in 2 minutes. So again, this will be quick. Here are some of the features that are going to be added with the new version of Utters that's coming out here in about a month. And then just the way it works is, right, if you have, here's your normal internet and here's your normal ISP or entity or whatever, right? Once an attack starts, that traffic's coming across all the different ASNs. Part of our community-driven approach is, right, there's a lot of smaller ISPs that just can't afford DDoS mitigation services, right? And also, if you're doing like remote trigger black holing or whatever, or going to your upstream provider, that DDoS is still impacting the entire network as it's coming to you, right? So you might be stopping it here, but there's still a whole bunch of bad traffic that's happening upstream from your upstream. So what Utters is you can make an announcement to us, right? And we'll make that announcement to everybody else that's within the Utters collaboration, and then they'll remotely black hole the traffic at their locations. So you can see just the quick change of how it impacts more upstream and it mitigates the DDoS more effectively. Again, just like Nimbus, the more of you that sign up for it, the better it gets. There's new stuff coming out with Utters here soon, so encourage you all to check that out on teamcymru.com. That takes me right to 9:15, so glad I had a little extra fodder there for you guys. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you, Brian, and apologies for the slight mix-up over the question slot timing. And again, thank you for Team Cymru for being our sponsor this time.
No problem. And definitely I'll be hanging out in the chat. And yeah, do you do any correlation of validity of announcements before passing it on? I see that from Jamie. Yeah, we do. And definitely, I'm out of time here, but if you sign up for it, we can discuss it in more detail, or hit me up over in Spatial and we can talk about it. But we do validate.